Well, since it's silent in there, I guess I can kind of
Well, since
unmute.
it's silent in there, I guess I can kind of.
And we're talking over this little presentation, folks. This is actually a sort of medieval fashion kind of event happening on the main talking stage, but they don't appear to be talking. So we're just broadcasting some rather cute little pictures. I guess these are medieval knights in medieval knight costumes. Um, can't say I'm an experienced fashion reporter. In fact, I don't really know what one does say. They are nice looking costumes. They look very wholesome and clean compared with what I think of as medieval gear. Um, but that's that, isn't it? I wonder if they have laundries in medieval courts. I suppose they did. It's probably like now, the military have their dirty gear they go to war in, and they have their dress gear they stand on parade with. Maybe it was just the same back in those days. And I believe the person you see in the centre of the stage is Dumpling. Yes, indeed. She is the one who I believe is actually hosting this event. Anyway, we will see what we will see. Coming up, we have a Meet the Designer session. Probably in just over half an hour with Sappho Richards again, so please stay tuned for that. Well, hopefully she'll start speaking again. I must say, before we came on air, they were actually speaking in World. They only seem to have gone silent now, so... Now, this is very interesting. I'm getting something in the Skype back channel here, basically giving us some ideas to what's going on. Basically, Piper Harriet has been shouting, "Ladies and gents," as well as TypeScript. I'm also in voice, so if you have speakers or a headset, feel free to listen in. But we're not hearing anything yet. Second Life was already 5 years old when B. Dumpling and Colton Destler raised into this fantastic virtual world. B and Colton met and spent a few months doing what all of us do in Second Life, i.e. exploring. They visited lots of places and even tried their hand at some roleplay on some of the sims that specialise in this activity. After a few months of medieval roleplay, B and Colton decided they would like to contribute with their own brand of clothing and weaponry, specifically for medieval roleplay. So 5 years ago, this May past, the White Armory was born. B creates exquisite gowns and outfits, and Colton designs and creates some of the best of weaponry for roleplay in Second Life in general. Piper says, "Thank you, ladies," which would suggest to me there are no gents in the audience. Very interesting fact, that. Some classic medieval activities include jousting, archery, and sword dueling. In the real world, Knights of Valor was a theatrical jousting group formed by Shane Adams in 1993. Members of this group began to practice jousting competitively, and the first tournament was held in 1997. Adams founded the World Championship Jousting Association as a body dedicated to jousting as a combat sport. And this led to its inaugural tournament in Port Elgin, Ontario on the 24th of July 1999. The sport is presented in the 2012 television show Full Metal Jousting. Curious. Jousting also takes place at Renaissance fairs all over the globe, being mostly popular in the UK and in the USA. As I share with you some medieval history and how popular it is in SL, as it is in RL, You will notice some of the white armory's gorgeous models gracing the stage and showing you just some of the beautiful gowns that the Dumpling has created in SL over the past 5 years. Before taking up design, B was a bit of a sword swashbuckling medieval roleplayer herself, together with her hubby Colton. As the medieval era is so popular in RL, they all wanted to add to SL. B started by making beautiful medieval women's gowns, ranging from peasant women to maidens to the more stately regal gowns. B told us once that she carried out a thorough search of women's medieval apparel in Second Life, and at that time there was not a great deal around. My wonderful camera woman here, Pet Love Pet Shop, says her dress matches the background, as I imagine you can kind of see. And we have been joined about by a griefer in the middle of the stage. For those of you who don't know, Second Life does experience these characters known as griefers. They are people who just sort of like to turn up and make a bit of a pain of themselves, standing in front of the cameras where they shouldn't be and trying to mess things up so things don't go according to plan. This is the sole achievement, sole purpose, I believe, of being a griefer. They do like to be around, especially when it's a nice big affair and their somewhat retarded egos can come into the limelight. Anyhow, we continue. Piper Hanriot is shouting, being a very talented graphics designer in RL, from day one, B has created all her own textures for all her own apparel. When she first started, she also made some men's apparel as well, and even now she sometimes makes and releases an outfit for the gentleman, one that usually complements one of the women's gowns. Apparently the gowns we've seen here so far represent the early years. She's always admired how much detail B puts into her work. And the White Armory has actually become one of the top brands in SL to provide medieval apparel and weaponry. I think we know that already, actually. We should just said it twice. Especially for those of you who'd like to delve into roleplay from a different era. B's attention to detail in her work is second to none, from puff sleeves, intricate embroidery, elegant textures, to creating beautiful fabrics like satin, velvet, taffeta, I'm not sure what that is, and silk. They look just as real in Second Life as they do in the real world. Even the finer details such as ribbon, beads, sequins, fine cord and badges, emblems and coats of arms. But there are other roleplay sims in Second Life 2, which are just as popular. Gurian, Star Wars, Star Trek, together with medieval sims like Avalon. Yes, I wonder if that's Avalon or Avillion, who we had on the one of the talks yesterday evening. They're now chatting away about banning the griefer we mentioned earlier, I think. A game was actually created in Second Life called Tiny Empires, which, if I remember rightly, involved wearing a sort of HUD, and it's like playing a sort of more conventional game while you were wandering in Second Life. And yes, indeed, it was a HUD-based game. Every 3 minutes, the page turns with a different task for you to complete. It's been around for about 6 years. Although its usage has apparently dropped off. But it's a nice sort of little diversionary game in Second Life. Rather funny. Somebody's being told to move from the stage before they use some fairy magic on you. That would be the griefer they're talking to. I rather suspect the griefer's disappeared from our camera here because we have a nice little trick called de-rendering, which means we can make problem things invisible so you don't see them here on live television. Anyway, as well as apparel and weaponry, Colton is also the founder of the Last White Knights of Second Life. This is a medieval roleplay of initiates, rangers and knights. If you're interested in learning how to joust, sword fight, or even shoot arrows in Second Life, this group holds regular training sessions every week, taught by very experienced knights of the group. The Last White Knights of SL were also, they also hold regular competitions at their medieval-themed facilities, which are in the form of platforms above the White Armory store. It was very impressive jousting and sword arenas, together with an archery range, practice area, and an authentic medieval tavern. One suspects that's probably the most popular part of the venue. Those of us who organise events in Second Life have learnt from the experience that it's better to hold an event either on another platform high above your store or training area, or alternatively on a different sim altogether. For the first year in Second Life, I found the White Armory and joined the group. I've been a huge fan of Bee's work. I used to sometimes read group chat, women begging Bee to have a fashion show event to show off her amazing work. And I remember Bee humouring everyone, and also thinking no one would come to see her work. I'm sure that's far from true. The fashion industry in Second Life is absolutely huge. Like many people who res into Second Life, I arrived at the end of January 2008. Once I had figured out the logistics of how to get around and get along to places I wanted to visit, and made some new friends along the way, I decided that I wanted something useful to do with my time. My friend then advised I join a group of this designer so I could follow her new releases, and when we visited the store, I then spent hours admiring her work, and of course, being a typical woman, I brought a few purchases as well. So I should hope. It was then that I also decided I would love to take up modelling in Second Life. However, I then hit a wall as I had no idea how to get into this industry. And I spent a good few months talking to friends and looking out model agencies in Second Life search. I finally found an agency that had an academy attached to it, and she spoke to the founder of the agency, and her business is now very established, although it's not quite as active as it was back then. Still regarded as one of the best. In the spring of 2010, Bee announced that she was going to hold a modelling competition at the White Armory. A lot of women in the group sent their photos, and Bee, Colton, and their store manager, Ida, would then pick out the best 8 and invite them to partake in the White Armory's fashion show. As you can imagine, this created quite a buzz. I was happy, excited, sent my photo in. Once the deadline, I should say, had closed, our esteemed judges then spent a week looking through all the photos, and then a second week passed by, and a notice from Bee thanking everybody for their patience, and announced how so hard it was to actually choose just 8 from the mountain of photos they'd received. As a then established organizer of fashion and events in SL, I contacted Bee asking if she needed any help. Bee admitted she found the prospect of putting together a fashion show for work a bit daunting and would be glad of some help. As much as I wanted to model Bee's work, I decided to pull out of the competition and concentrate on helping Bee with the organisation. Up on the dialogue there. Turning back to it's coming through paper costumes, I've got to say. I'm getting a bit of noise in the back channel here telling me that I'm a good fashion commentator, or rather I'm sounding good. I'm not quite sure which. This is not our forte at all. We normally do chat shows. And I see something landing on stage there. Could that be the briefer? I don't know. Panning across to the White Knights instead. And Piper Hanrath is shouting at the audience. Thank you, ladies. When I say shout, I don't mean she's actually bellowing. There's a sort of convention in Second Life where if you type in text, it's called talk. And there's a button you can push saying shout, which means the text range of your voice goes further. And basically, it's not a real shout, it's a sort of shout. You see what I mean? And once more, there's some conversation going on about various things that may happen to this Griefer person if he doesn't behave himself. So I've lost my scrolling position. Every year they also hold a prestigious model concert, Mist TWA. The current one for this year is actually taking place at this very moment. See if I can get a slightly bigger window over here so I can read more text ahead.
These people need to grow up in here. If they're going to come to these things, I've got to go. Ladies and gentlemen, you're wonderful. Sorry. Bye.
Yeah, apparently somebody in voice has been riding the Griefers. Unfortunately, I don't actually have voice on our monitor, otherwise you'd be hearing a large amount of echo from me while I'm actually speaking, so we can't have voice on the monitor here. I would just have to imagine what rubbish a Griefer might be having to say for himself. So, the White Armory brand is now well established, and it's also received recognition in the shape of awards, also this year, incidentally. The White Armory is very honoured and proud to be taking part in the Second Life 10th year birthday celebrations, which is definitely one for the Second Life history books. B has also created some absolutely beautiful gowns and outfits from other eras, as well, ranging from Victorian to 1920s, 40s, 60s, and completely through fantasy, fairy, and even wedding attire. Weddings are quite a big thing in Second Life, interestingly. He is currently in the process of creating and releasing a collection of gowns and outfits inspired by the TV hit show Game of Thrones. I have never actually seen this, but I have certainly heard of it, and of course it's a range of novels, I believe, as well. Until recently, all designers have created apparel in Second Life using base items and prims. However, new technology has been developed, and since the end of 2011, mesh has burst into the Second Life world as a new way of designing. This isn't just for clothing, but also for jewellery, shoes, hair, nails, and even furniture. Indeed, I'd add to that, actually. I mean, you can actually have whole simulators, which are sort of areas of Second Life. They can be built entirely with mesh these days, if so desired. In the fashion industry, however, I'm being told, mesh received a cool reception to begin with, as it was quickly discovered that in order to wear a mesh dress or outfit, you had to adjust your shape to fit it. Most designers she's aware of now create 4 to 5 different sizes of mesh apparel and also add an alpha layer which forms an invisible cover for your avatar, so there's no need for you to change your avatar's shape to wear an item. I'd add that I think this is known as a mesh deformation, or mesh deformer. It's a trick to get around the way of putting meshes onto shapes, basically. I'd like to thank our second camera, MOE, actually. We're not seeing his stream as such at the moment, but he's the one providing me with this wonderful written commentary and world, which I am now relaying to you folks. B released her first mesh dress in the spring of 2012. It's called the Casablanca, and it proved to be an instant hit. A whole parade of mesh gowns then followed, with some being shown at the White Armory's late summer fashion show in September 2012. Having watched all our fabulous models come out onto the stage today and then return again, a few of them have worn mesh dresses, but I wonder if you can tell which were created in the traditional print style and which were created in mesh. Yes, says Emma, it is a labour-intensive broadcast. And actually, I should ask you folks at home watching this. I know TV is not the best way of doing this, but would indeed you have been able to tell which of the models were wearing mesh and which were wearing sort of more traditional prim and flexi-based costumes? I will give you a clue. Mesh tends to look far more realistic and engaging than the prim stuff ever did, but it also can sometimes appear rather static. So a lot of older costuming probably moves a little bit better, but I'll leave you to judge. A little competition you can play by yourselves. So Piper announces that we now come to the finale for the show today. And she'd like to invite all the gorgeous models back onto the stage one last time. She says they've done an amazing job, and I think here at the TV station we'd agree with that from what we can see on our monitors. It would be nice to hear her actually, but that's nice. Very colourful as you see. Something we experienced when broadcasting television from Second Life is if there's a big audience and a lot going on, we get something that's sort of called lag, which means that our camera can actually move into someone they've already seen, and they start resolving in front of you. In other words, you only see a bit of them until the camera stands on them a bit and they come into focus. But yeah, we've got a pretty good job here. They all look pretty well rezzed, as we say in the trade. So please welcome back Serenity, Irina, Theta, Callie Willow, Elia, and Nairi. I hope I've got those names right. Those are the names of those wonderful models you see before you there. And I have to say, this started later than we thought actually, but it's all really nice and compact. They've done the whole show in record time, really. Whereas just as the show, a little bit of entertainment goes by like wildfire, whereas the chat shows go on forever. Although you never realise it while you're doing them. It seems to finish before you've started sometimes. I must say, it gets brighten up things a little bit to have something that's not just chat happening on stage. Some of the previous broadcasters have had a bit of both. If you saw the interview with the Tinies the other evening, for example, a lot of that was narration, but there were also lots of sound effects coming from that particular audience, which kind of brightened up the proceedings, shall we say. And somehow managed to do so without actually sort of overwhelming the sound of the speakers either. You will see the hostess there was typing something with the typing animation, which is the sort of chat we're receiving, but then her hands went up to her mouth and you had this animation of her shouting. And this is an automatic animation that happens when somebody does that shout thing I just mentioned to the audience. Basically projects her voice over, well, her text voice, as it were, over a much wider difference. Apparently it's gone pretty quiet in there now. They're just basically, the models are just basically posing on stage while people in the audience have a good look around them. If you're actually in Second Life, I'm pretty sure most of our viewers here will know this, but if you don't, you actually have a camera facility in Second Life, rather like what we're doing with the broadcasting here. Not quite the same, but you know, you can be in the audience and you can sort of zoom in to somebody on the stage and sort of look around them and you know, examine the fine detail of their costumes or their face or whatever. So I imagine that's what a lot of people in the audience are doing now, is sort of taking the opportunity while they're all still to pan in and examine all the detail. I imagine there's quite a few. I like the way she says, "Thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies." There's got to be at least one man in the audience. Well, there is. We've got a camera person there. But I suspect the detailed examination of the costume is probably more of a female activity than the men's. But I don't want to sound sexist, so maybe I'll take that back. Men are probably trying to examine something completely different. I'm not going to go there though. Oh, we do have some news backstage. Apparently, Sapphire is in the house, as they say. It's his Atchis. It's only 5 minutes to go now, really. Before we're expecting the next media designer session. So time flies, doesn't it? I'm going to suggest Mo, who's one of our cameras there, relocates to wherever Sapphire is going to be doing her session. It may be on the same stage, so there may be no relocation needed. But we will see, we will see. And I've just had confirmation that there are a number of men in the audience. I think we can be thankful that they're showing off medieval gowns rather than sort of disco mini skirts. That would be the one that got the men going, I suspect. Second Life is just as bad as the organic world in this respect. Yeah, quite a full house there. This is a big auditorium, so people are obviously rather scattered around it. Oh, looks like some nice costumes in the audience here too. You're probably hearing my voice. I won't be perfectly in sync with what I'm seeing on camera here, so I'm not talking over anything specific. Part of the fun of this sometimes is, you know, while we're doing talks and things, you know, getting our camera, panning around the audience and sort of seeing who's there, because it is a birthday celebration and people often come dressed in strangest sort of costumes and forms. Quite an exhibition in itself. Where it looks like Sapphire's session is actually on the same stage, so we're just going to keep our sort of cameras in position and we'll swap from one to the other. Hopefully, I'm not going to have to narrate over Sapphire's voice. I think we'll be pretty much okay there. Well, if you heard that tiny little hiss in the background, that was just me checking the monitor on our other camera. Checking for the voice, of which there's none yet, but that's not surprising. So we now have what looks like an empty stage. And I'm just going to temporarily kill our recording right now, so we can start a new one with Sapphire when she comes on.